Well, welcome to Topics of Light, brought to you by FWCC in Las Vegas. Today we're going to be discussing the remarriage and blended families. It's kind of a word that we hear quite often, is blended. And today, with me today is Gloria. You want to greet the people?
How you doing today? You're blessed.
And Barbara.
Hello, hope you have a great day.
And I'm blessed to be able to have the two of them with me today, so thank you. Have you ever stopped? There's a question that I was challenged with because I hadn't even thought of it this way. But you'd ever stop to realize that most of the families of the Old Testament were blended families? When you think about it, albeit blended families of different color, they resulted from multiple marriages instead of death or divorce. But they were blended families. And you think about kings that had all these wives and all these children. I wonder how big that palace was.
I can't imagine the monthly bill for support.
Monthly support. Maybe the palace wasn't big enough,
right.
But there's a whole lot of blending going on. But as we see the divorce rates rising in our society and the number of single parent families increases, stats have shown us that blended family is becoming increasingly common, and that almost 1 in every 3 Americans are touched in one way or another as a step-parent, a stepchild, a step-sibling, or some other member of a step-family. And I remember when I married, and I was brought up to married, when you get married, you're married for life. One spouse, and you're married for life. And I intended that. I was raised up with that moral, with that value. But I found myself after 4 years of marriage being separated, and then after a year of separation, being divorced. And I remember not wanting that, and I know that wasn't God's best. And I know God's best was not divorced, although He loves divorced people.
Absolutely.
He loves divorced people, but it wasn't His best because He knew how hard it would be on children and so forth. And I remember one thing, I never referred to myself as a divorced person. I didn't. I never called myself that. I never even thought of myself as a divorced person. And I just didn't. And I saw myself as a single parent with 2 children. And so if somebody would ask me a question, I'd answer it as honestly as I could. But I think it's difficult for people because it may not be something they wanted or they intended, and it's a heartbreak and so forth. And you can try really hard, but it takes 2 people to keep a marriage together, and so forth and so on. And of course, God right in the middle, and that. But one thing or another can always remind you that you're a blended family, like the silent pressure of how to explain. So I met Pastor John some years later. I think it was almost 8 years later that I met him. So I had been a single parent for a period of time. Maybe it wasn't quite 8. But I was a single parent for a while. And when we blended our families together we had 6 children. And it was funny, I always said, I want to have 6 children. I don't know what maybe. But then I got it. And I got 6 children. But I know. But my friend in high school would say, 6 children? I don't think I want any. I said, I think I want 6. Little did I know, I was probably declaring it over my life. But anyway, I met Pastor John, and we got married, and together he brought in 4, I brought in 2, and we were blended all over the place. We were a blended family. One of the things that I didn't ever want to refer to our children as stepchildren. I just didn't. And I didn't want to refer to us as step-parents. So when someone would ask us, they'd ask me, how many children do you have? I'd say, together we have 6. And that kind of got past some of that. So you can find different ways that you can do that. But are you finding that you are seeing more and more people that are part of blended families and things, and finding more and more some of the struggles that people might be having? I know in a church, sometimes we want to make sure that we are ministering to everyone in a church and not just a certain group of people. And I'm glad and blessed that FWCC has many different people from different backgrounds and different things, and we can be a blessing too. So I'm just going to give you a couple points that I think would be kind of good, because we've had the opportunity. Pastor John and I are going to be celebrating 30 years.
Amen.
And I was married at 5. No, I'm
Yeah.
just...
Yeah, I can relate.
Can you tell? You
I
can relate.
I
Yeah,
can-
well, you know. But anyway, so we've been, and thank God, what a blessing to have a godly man and a godly husband, and to bring the word of God and to pray together and to want to follow God in our marriage and following that. And I so in Matthew 18:19 talks about the power of agreement and how important the power of agreement is if 2 or more people or groups of people will unite with a purpose. Because when you're bringing in families, you've probably got spouses from a previous marriage. You've got different ways of doing things. And one of the things to keep in mind is the children. The children will be living in 2 different households with 2 different rules, different regulations, or different things. So they'll come into your house and they'll maybe be expected to go by that rule, but they might go into another home and be expected to go by that. And so it can be a very confusing time. And I think that power of agreement is if 2 or more shall agree on earth as touching anything that they ask, it shall be done for them of my Father that is in heaven, right? Matthew 18:19. So I did a bold thing. I decided to ask our adult children what we did well and what we didn't do so well. Don't you think that was a loaded
That's
question?
bold. That is bold.
That was bold.
I had a friend who always said, "Don't ask the question if you can't take the answer." That's bold.
Right. It was a bold thing to ask. But the one thing that one of them said was that she didn't hear us disagree in front of them. I thought, wow, because we had disagreements, but she didn't remember that we had these disagreements in front of them. And I thought that was good. So that blessed me. And then the other thing was we wished we could have done more things as a family, as a blended family together. And so to do more things and to spend more time together. But we just didn't have a whole lot of money. And we were working double jobs. And so, sometimes you blend families together. Then you're living on what was one income, now has been split into 2 incomes. And there's child support and there's all these different things. But if we could have done more of these camping trips, how you have these tragedies and everybody comes and rallies together and you get closer because of things like that. So that was a suggestion. I wish we would have done more of those things all together. And the other one said, and not waited to do something special when the other children were there, but to try to do it special as much as you could, right? So that all families, so it's a lot of complications. That's a lot of things to
Organizing
do.
And
Yeah.
putting things together. But
Yeah.
how awesome. It was interesting. You're talking about they didn't see you disagree.
Yeah.
One of the things that our oldest daughter said to me one time is she said, "Mom, you and Dad never really fought in front of us. You didn't disagree in front of us." And I said, "Well, that's true. And Craig and I don't fight. I mean, we don't. I'm not saying we agree on everything, but we don't bring it to a big strife thing, right?" And she said to me, she said, "I wish I had seen you disagree, because I grew up thinking that married couples just don't disagree." And it's just all hunky-dory all the time. And if I'm disagreeing with my husband, then there must be something wrong with me. And I think that's good that, you know what I'm saying? The perspectives of children.
Right.
I think it's very interesting how they see it, because, I mean, if we had a disagreement, we tried to do it between me and Craig and not in front of the kids, because we don't want to cause them to worry. Or children have a tendency to jump on the bandwagon that, "Oh, Lord, Mother and Daddy are not going to stay together," or whatever, come on. But yeah, I thought that is very interesting. So that's good.
And
That is
but
good.
that's a good point, because we teach them how you can disagree and still come together. But that's what you shouldn't disagree in front of them. But she went on to say this, but I could tell if you were kind of irritated. I thought, I bet you could, right? Maybe I
There
didn't
was a
say a
different
whole lot,
flavor
but
in
there
the
was a
air.
little bit, there was a little going on. But I thought that was interesting. So I think sometimes it's asking your children questions on what they'd like to see. And I think as parents, and especially as blended families, is realizing that we can ask and we don't have to know everything. We don't have to know all the answers, and children are different and so forth. But that agreement was really powerful, I think, is one of the things, whatever you can agree on, whether you see eye to eye or not, that you can do. Some of the things that I think, regardless if you're a blended family or not, or coming from a divorce situation, but we'll focus more on blended family, is putting God first and not self first. And I remember my sister telling me that one of the things that I came out of my divorce with was that prior to that, I was pretty selfish. You know, I'd come home from college and I would think I should just use anything my little sister had. You know, I didn't have time to wash clothes, and so I'd think, oh, I could wear something of Karen's, right? And she didn't mind. I was her big sister. I guess she couldn't wait till I got home. But one of the things is I would use her things and just take for granted that I could, but I didn't put it back in nice order. I didn't make sure that they were clean before I left and things like that. And she said, what I noticed, what you went through was hard and very difficult and a lot of things, but she said you came out of it a person that wasn't selfish like that. And I thought, well, that's good. But I thought, thank you for telling me that. Thank you for taking that step to share that with me. You know, because I don't think any of us want to be a selfish person and put ourselves first. We want to put other people first. But we can get so tunnel vision that that's what we do, no matter what kind of family we might be in. Yeah.
Amen.
So putting God first and not self, and that determination that we can, with God, we can be determined to do it His way regardless. And when we seek Him, He'll show us how. Like if we're having a difficult relationship with one of the children, we seek Him on how can I be a blessing to that child? God, how can I get to know that child, and how can I be a blessing? You're not going to take the place. I always knew I was never going to take the place as their mom. They had a mom. But I could be a godly example. I could be a spiritual mom for them. I could pray for them and care about them and love on them and try to understand, so forth and so on. And then that agreement versus disagreement. But I would say, if you're listening today and you really want to know, I made more mistakes than I probably did it right. And yet God was there to help time after time after time. Not to be so hard on yourself, but like you had said earlier in the last session, ask for forgiveness. We don't do things always. I mean, we make mistakes. We go left when we want to go right, and vice versa. But ask for forgiveness, and God is so good, and children are so forgiving. When they know you're loved, when they know you love them, they'll forgive a multitude of things if they know they love you or you love them, whatever. So I guess the biggest thing I could say right now is that the more you can find out, the more information you can get on blended families. But know this, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that have gone before you in these situations. Ask God to bring in a mentor into your life, somebody older that has gone through some things and will be totally honest with you about the ups and the downs and the valleys and the peaks and the things that they've gone through, because I think that's important, and God will bring that. And of course, God knows how to help each and every one of us. So I would rely totally on Him. Inbox us if we can pray for you in any way at all. Barbara, it was a blessing to have you on the set. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Gloria, as always, thank you for being here as well.
Thank you.
We're here just to walk through life together, not perfect, but serving a perfect God. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.